Okay, our next speaker is the Chief Exec of CognAssist. So Chris Quickfall. Chris, where are you? You're just there, on his way. So let's welcome Chris to the platform.
Thank you very much. Hello, thanks for your time and thanks for listening to me today. So I know what you're thinking. I was thinking of this morning when I pulled up this slide and I thought, oh, I'm wearing the same clothes. But I'm not. I do have more than one set of clothes. You'll notice the colours are slightly different. So, my name is Chris Quickfall, and I'm here to talk a little bit about 20% and how we can use additional learning support and additional learning funding to try and bridge that gap. So when I was at university, I was identified as being dyslexic. And in universities, they've got a lot of support systems and coping strategies. If that was an apprenticeship, all of those coping strategies would be applicable under the 20% rule. So I'll talk about the challenges and the solutions, but I know you've probably gone through a lot of this afternoon. It's applicable for both the training provider and the employer. I think that's one thing we need to make sure that employers are aware that they're responsible for undertaking this 20% as well as just the training provider. The challenge is really broken down into three parts. First is meeting that 20%. I think it's been talked about a lot. How can we get those 42, 46 days worth of training undertaken within that period? The second one is how do we fit all that training through those goalposts that the government said it's got to fit through these goalposts. And then the third bit is how do we evidence it? There's a lot of technological solutions for evidencing. I was just talking to Susanna over at OneFile. They've got a great system. Our system as well tries to automate that. If anybody's like me, poor with organizational control, if I can rely on a technological solution to do this job for me, it's much better. So meeting the minimum requirement, everyone says 20% equals 1 day in 5. Obviously, that's not the case practically. You can do it whenever you want. You can clump before and clump after. I've spoken to a lot of providers that are taking additional learning support, and they're bundling that up in blocks, or they're spreading it throughout. Now, what counts and what doesn't count? One of the really interesting things about what does count is any types of learning support whatsoever, they will qualify under that 20% as long as obviously they're not sitting outside of work. Now, with regards to evidencing, one thing we try and build up throughout our evidencing programs is something called the 4 Ds. I think Anne Milton said earlier, they're not really prescriptive about what they want to be achieved, but if you haven't evidenced it, then they'll perceive it as never have been taken. Simple evidence in practice is the 4 Ds, date that we did it, the description of what we did, the delivery mechanism we did it in, and the duration. And as long as you get your staff aware that we address those 4 Ds, then you've got a pretty solid evidencing program. Make sure they're addressing that. And what can we do here? Well, I'm not sure how many apprentices with hidden learning needs you guys have on board on your programs. Does anyone know the number off the top of their head? No? On average, I'm hearing about 2% of learners. Now, we've profiled 11,000 apprentices across a range of providers, and we're identifying around about 1 apprentice in 4 as having a hidden learning need. Hidden learning needs are quite broad, so we're not talking intellectual learning need. Sometimes you can have high achiever learners that identify and exhibit what would qualify under a hidden learning need over government regulations. And part of the regulations state, if you can read that language around the top, executive function, numeracy, visual perception. If you can identify a weakness within any of those areas with learners, then that learner will qualify for learner support funding. And all the coping strategy and additional work you do with that learner, as long as it's not job specific, also qualifies for that 20%. So first stage is you need to qualify that learner as having a hidden learning need. And then you need evidence on a monthly basis that you're providing that support. Well, you're evidencing anyway because you need to evidence the 20% support work. Now, the way that the finance works, £150 per month per learner identified. If you're identifying 1 learner in 4 for every 100 learners you've got on program, you're going to be drawn down about an additional £40,000. So that's £40,000 per 100 learners. So in addition to supporting your Ofsted requirements, it's a key Ofsted requirement now, be proactive in identifying and supporting learners with hidden learning needs. So you're improving Ofsted. You're also being able to capture more of your work that you're doing off the job, and being able to apply this as additional learning support, so you support your 20%, and you've keeping your finance director off your back because you're able to draw down additional funding to do this. You can use this you can get educational psychologists, they can do these tests. We do it digitally, ours only takes 30 minutes. Kicks out your immediate report so you know if they're one of those 1 of 4 or not. And then the key, once you've identified that learner and you know where the difficulty lies, is what we're going to do about it. You can either sit down and get all your staff trained on coping strategies, or with one of our systems, that learner logs online. E-learning is qualifiable under the goalposts that the government has set. That learner can independently learn as they go along. That learning is captured, automated, and kicked back out as an evidence report. In addition, when your training assessors go and sit with that learner, they can access these reports and start to understand what that learner's been doing, how they've been doing it, and more crucially, as a training assessor, what do I need to do to further embed that? Again, all of this is documentable, all of this can be mapped down in time, and all of this can be evidence against your 20% off the job. The data reports that kicked out, that has 2 purposes. So the first purpose is you can send it off to your learner support team. They can use that to draw down that funding. The second purpose is that can go into your evidence and for your additional learner support portfolio as well. And how does it support off-the-job training? Well, it fits through those goalposts, obviously really critical. It's carried out during working hours, and it's related to your learning level. Very easy to evidence as well. So we've included a couple of tips on how you can go around performing that evidence. Obviously, regular recording. Again, if anyone's like me, you're going to really struggle to go back and retrospectively figure out what you've done. Having the discipline, notes, technology solutions, diary notes, commitments, try and get learners to write journals. And here we've put in a super simple timesheet. The simpler the better. Otherwise, extra confusion just leads to people not doing it and lagging it, and I'll do it tomorrow mentality. Again, if anyone remember the 4 Ds, try and stick the 4 Ds into these evidence and programs as well. And that's it for myself. So, if you've got any questions, I'm going to be here afterwards.